I think we need a break. We haven't had one, so we're going to take a brief break at this time. We will now reconvene the June 9th Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting, and we're on agenda item number 5 on the public hearings. The proposed repeal of Section 92-15 of Chapter 92, Article 3 of the Code of Caroline County, Private Disposal Systems. Board members have questions prior to the opening of the public hearing. If not, we will open the public hearing at this time. Mr. Michael, you know what I'm talking about. Mr. Fincher. It's been a long night.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the staff report or the cover memo is included in your packet. The board previously considered this item and authorized this for public hearing. We've brought this back for public hearing tonight. As the memo states, due to the change in the operations between utilities, public works, and the building department, as well as the applicable state regulations, this bonding is not really necessary anymore, either from the utilities department or from the building inspections department. And staff has consulted with Mr. Schiebel, and he does not need the regulations. We do not need the regulations because of state code, and we would recommend that you do away with this section of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fincham. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this proposed repeal of Section 92-15, Article 3, Code of Caroline County, Private Disposal Systems? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Again, is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Seeing no one with the intention to speak, I will close the public hearing at this time. Board members have questions. Mr. Thomas.
No, Mr. Chairman, it appears that the cover memo states that the state has rendered this useless, so it's no sense in pursuing.
Hey, Mr. Black.
Not at this time.
Okay, Mr. Underwood.
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, no
Mr.
comments.
Akers.
No, sir.
And Mr. Sealy.
I make a motion we repeal Chapter 92, Section 15 of the Code of Caroline County governing bond request for private sewage disposal. Containers/installers be repealed entirely.
Second.
We moved and properly second that the proposed repeal of Section 92-15 of Chapter 92, Article 3 of the Code of Caroline County Private Disposal Systems be repealed in its entirety. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. That takes us to agenda item number 6, cost estimate to repair former Frog Level Volunteer Rescue Squad building. Mr. Schiebel.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good evening.
Before you tonight is the cost estimate to do the repairs to the Frog Level Rescue. As you are aware that we have received a request for the transfer of the property into Caroline County's name. There's still a concern as there are no documentation that the tanks have been removed. We have spoke with several individuals that have told us that there are no tanks in the ground. We contacted DEQ and put in a FOIA request, and upon their return they said that they have no records that the tanks were ever removed. In order for the county to be able to qualify for any state funding, if there is any contamination, if the tanks are or not in the ground, we have to at least do a Phase 1 environmental. If the Phase 1 environmental says there's no issues and then there is issues, it's kind of an assurance policy that would cover Caroline County if anything was found, and they would help to spend the expenditures to be able to cover any cost to do any cleanup that would be out there. Two recommendations. One is that we would use Draper Aiden to come out. They would use ground penetrating radar and actually see if there's any tanks under the ground. And two, they would perform the Phase 1 environmental. That cost is estimated at $3,000 for them to perform that service, and is cheaper than the last vendor that we had. We just entered into the contract a month and a half ago with Draper Aden to be able to perform these type of services. Other issues I think the board needs to be aware of is the fascia board on the front of the building needs to be replaced. It's rotted out now, and it's an immediate replacement, $1,200. Painting of another piece that's got bare wood exposed, and if we don't do something with that, that'll have to be replaced. We've estimated at $400. There's some glass that it appears that some kids have busted out some of the windows, an estimate of $225 to replace the glass. If the county is going to maintain that facility in the future, we think that the windows should be replaced. Right now they're single pane windows and the frames are rotting around them, and it would save us money in a short period of time if we were to heat that space. So that's estimated at $6,200. It doesn't need to be done immediately. However, as soon as you do that, it will have cost savings. Shingles on part of the building, we've estimated that it needs to be done within the next 2 years, $11,450. And then the shed, actually that should say 5 years, along with the rest of the roof shingles, 5 years. So the shed would be about $1,500, needs to be looked at in the next 5 years, as well as the rest of the roof shingles in the next 5 years to be replaced. So I just think those are costs that the board needs to be aware of. If we do take the property at no cost, we still have some financial investment that needs to be done to make sure the building stays dry inside of it. And we're willing to do whatever the board directs us to do.
I guess one of the questions that I have is, did we say for sure that we wanted this building? I mean, I don't think that the board is. We talked about the building, and we talked about, I guess, some things that it could be used for. I believe something was mentioned about a satellite office, maybe, for the sheriff's department. Was that something we talked about, or no?
Sheriff, Mr. Chairman, the board did not approve accepting the building from the Frog Level Rescue Squad organization. We did present a recommendation for the sheriff's office to utilize the building so that we could have a satellite office in the area, maybe have some job fairs down at that facility, events in the parking lot to try to foster the relationship between the community and the sheriff's office. So we're interested in getting the building.
I'm just looking at the cost, just the estimated cost of repairs to the building. I guess my question is, at what point is it more economical to just build another building if that's a need in that area? And that's something for the board to think about. I don't know if you are in a position tonight to make a decision either one way or the other.
Mr. Chairman, the assessment by the county is well over $200,000 for that building. I do not know if I thought it was $265. Mr. Thomas probably can look it up on his computer, but it was a considerable amount of money that the building's actually worth. There is some deed restrictions, and I don't know if they transfer to the county, but I think what happened was the Frog Level Rescue Squad could not sell it once they disbanded the rescue squad because there was some deed restrictions, and I don't know if they would actually transfer to the county, but it actually had to be sold to a nonprofit organization or given to the county. So I don't know if those restrictions follow once it goes to the county.
Okay, Mr. Seeley, did you have a comment?
Mr. Emerson, can we sell the building if we take it? Can we then?
Mr. Cully and I were just talking about that. I'd need to see the deed and the title work and restrictions. And
because
I think what the sheriff's talking about is a restriction on 501c3 entities that if they dissolve, they have to transfer their property to similar entities, usually under their organizational documents in order to get the 501c3 approval from the IRS.
Because if we're going to spend this kind of money, we may as well
know.
spend it on the Frog Level Volunteer Fire Department. I mean, it's a viable building. It's there. They've got land. It's not like we don't need. It's not like we need the land for anything. But I mean, I understand that we've got to see if the tanks are there or not, because nobody's going to buy it if we don't know if the tanks are gone or not gone. I mean, I don't know that we have any choice because we can't sell it without that. But I think if the tanks are gone or we remediate them, can we sell it to somebody and at least use that for other fire, I mean, we've got other fire and rescues that need work done that we're spending money on. If we sold that and those proceeds got split up or bought a piece of it, I mean, I'm sure Chief Loftus has ideas of what he could do with even $150,000 from the property. Those are my thoughts.
Other board members?
Yeah, from what Mr. Emerson's saying, we don't know if we can even sell the property. So we're playing an if game here, which,
Yeah, I mean, we'd really want to look at the title.
Right.
And look at the deed and any other restrictions that might be on the land that are in the chain of title to see whether they would bind the county or not. But if you're thinking of not taking title to it, I mean, you might not want to spend the money for the environmental study either. If you never get into the chain of title, you don't have any liability for the cleanup, should any be necessary.
right.
Other board members have questions?
I just wonder if they cannot sell it, and evidently they cannot, the rescue squad cannot to sell it. They have to give it to either the county or to another C5013 entity. What's going to happen to it? We're going to have the same problem with that building and with the grass growing up and those things that we've been talking about tonight, having to make sure they're maintained and the building kept up. Certainly, I don't mean this in a negative way, but the defunct rescue squad, which is no longer in existence, they can't afford to do these things because they have no money to repair the building. I think it's sort of a catch-22 for the county from a standpoint that I think we have to be careful as to what we put into that building. My only question is if staff can maybe look at what could possibly go into that building besides a satellite office for the sheriff. Is there some other use that the county can have for that building? And as Mr. Schiebel or someone said, it is valued at $282,000. The value of the property and the building is valued at $282,000. That's a tax rolls. So I don't know that we need to say, no, we're not going to do anything with it. I think we need to give Mr. Emerson time to look at the deed and the title to make sure that it's something that, should we be able to, that we take it, that we can sell it to someone else. I don't think it's something we should say no, flat out that, no, we're not going to take it, let them do what they want to with it, and the chances are they're going to let it grow up and cave in and things that nature, which is going to create an eyesore for that 301 corridor, which I don't think that's something we want to do either.
Other board members?
Have we removed the signage? Does it still say rescue building?
No, it does
We did
not.
take the signage
We
off?
took, yeah, that's down.
Just as far, okay, that's one good thing. I think we need to see at least phase one to see what's going on, you know, because if we're going to sell it or not, we need to know what's there, and then let Mr. Emerson concurrently look and see what the choices are.
Okay, it seems to be the consensus of the board then that we allow Mr. Emerson to look into the deed, look at the title in the deed and see what restrictions there are, if any, and then we'll come back and try and determine the direction that we want to go after that. Okay?
Do we want to do the phase one, $3,000 first to confirm there's no tanks? Or?
Well,
Once we do that, I think we assume some liability because we'll know. I'd rather know what the title says, what we can and can't do before we go next step.
Why do we assume liability
Yeah, I
if
don't-
we just check in to see if there are tanks in the ground?
We're providing the service for the actual owner. We're not taking the property first. We're just
Mr.
helping
Cully, you
somebody
got an
by finding out
opinion?
if there's tanks there. I don't think we
Yeah,
get
we,
responsibility.
I think from a staff perspective, we hadn't decided or have any recommendation what the board ought to do with the property. Our first and foremost was to determine whether the tanks had been removed and there wasn't any environmental issues there, so that we didn't accept title to property that was then going to cost us a significant amount of dollars to clean up. So I think if we can do the phase one environmental, and then we can bring forward to you, this is what the deed says. If we dispose of it, this is the value. You can use the building for this. We got to put this much money in it. We can come up with a list of options, but you really don't want to do any of that until you really do this phase one environmental, knowing that the old gas station was run there.
okay, it seems to be then that to at least do phase one, to determine if there are tanks there, and then we can go on from there and while that's going on, Mr. Emerson can look at the restrictions that involved in the deed and the title.
And if you would like that in the form of a motion, I so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we would do phase one, and also allow Mr. Emerson to look into the deed restrictions and come back with some type of recommendation once that's been done. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. That takes us to new business, proposed purchase of replacement vehicles for the Department of Public Utilities.
Mr. Chairman, good evening again. This item is something that has happened over the last 3 weeks. We had our 2006 pickup truck that we use for towing the mowing equipment around to the different sites. Actually had the motor stopped working. We took it to the shop and the motor's locked up in it. We've got a cost estimate to replace the motor in there at $5,300. NADA trade-in value on it is $7,000. Staff looking at a vehicle that's worth $7,000 and putting a $5,300 motor in it didn't make a lot of sense. We contacted the Chevrolet dealership down in Ashland and spoke with them about pricing. Their pricing is quite a bit higher than what we're able to do through the state contract. So staff's recommendation is to replace that vehicle in kind through the state contract. We also had a van that's used for the facilities mechanic that maintains the buildings and sometimes pulls trailers as well. And the transmission slipping in that, we got an estimate of $2,500 to rebuild the transmission in that vehicle, provided that the planetary gear and sun gear, there are no issues with that. Could go up to as high as $4,000 if that's the case. That vehicle NADA was $2,000. So investing $2,500 or more into a $2,000 vehicle, again, didn't make a lot of sense. Both of these vehicles would normally be replaced in our normal cycle approved through replacing vehicles in the CIP. However, they've been bumped each year, and I think we're at that point where the vehicles are starting to catch up with the mileage and age, and of course both of them are used for tow vehicles. And again, we did the same thing. We got pricing through Luck Chevrolet. Those costs were higher than what we were able to purchase through state contract. We've got a 60-day lead time on the pickup truck and a 90-day lead time on the van, and it's staff's recommendation to replace both of these vehicles through state contract.
Mr. Cully.
I would like to add that I would like to lease purchase those. I think for what we would spend in the, just fixing the engine in one would cover a lease on it for the first year easily. We could get a government lease for 4 years. You're going to keep them 10, and so we'll have 5 or 6 years of no payments. But I think it'd be better than buying 2 out of the fund balance if you would approve them. We would do a lease purchase on both of those.
What are the lease numbers for ballparkish?
I don't know that we've looked into that. I was on vacation, so it's kind of got on without.
I mean, if we bought a $50,000 car, we would probably be paying $500 or $600 a month.
No, well, the way they do the lease is depends on whether you do those quarterly or not. Ms. Hatchermite can discuss that a little bit better. But there is some interest involved, but it's not like a lease that you and I can get because it's a municipal lease. So at the end of the term, it's ours for the last payment is $1.
But I'm just trying to confirm. We would spend maybe $2,000 in lease payments, is what you're saying, versus $50,000 to buy 2 trucks right away. But how long is that lease payment and all the other things that go into the math?
On the smaller vehicles, such as what Mr. Sheep was talking about, we don't do it more than 5 years.
Right.
Okay, get a little closer to the mic.
Yeah. 4 to 5 years.
5 years.
Right. But I mean, if you leased a $50,000 car or 2 $50,000 vehicles for 5 years, that's $10,000 a year, plus whatever interest is involved. Right. So we're dividing that by 12 to get our monthly payment to figure out what it is. That's all I was
We
trying to
do
figure out.
all of ours semi-annually.
Oh, we only make 2 payments.
Right.
Okay.
So what are we using now? Both of those vehicles are out of commission, is that right?
Yeah,
Truck is
the truck itself is actually over at the landfill and just parked over there until we know what that's going to be. And they're driving a little S10 pickup truck. And the van right now, they put some kind of an additive in there It's still slipping. It is not completely gone. We've taken some of the equipment out of the van, so they're not so much weight in it, and we've told them not to pull any equipment at all. Knowing we got a 90-day lead time, we're hoping to milk it along for 90 days at this point.
So we're kind of just making do, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Why is there a 90-day lead time?
Because for them to make the vehicle.
We can't just pick one up off the block?
Well, we actually looked. That's what we went to Lux Chevrolet for. They actually looked into the system and said that there's no vans because they're getting ready to switch the time of year. They're getting ready to switch over to the new model line. So there's not any 15s out there. They're getting ready to switch over to 16. And they said they've got the same lead time, 90 days on vans. We looked at used vans, a year-old van, a 2015 with 18,000 miles, and even that van was $3,000, $4,000 more than buying a new van. So it was definitely more economical for us to buy a 2016 with no miles.
I thought state contract meant you could go to the dealership and say, here's my contract price, give me this car.
No, sir. The state contract is there. Certain dealers have that contract, but they don't have to necessarily have them in stock. So most of them does take a significant number of weeks to get the car, unless they just happen to have ordered a bunch. See, we're at the end of the cycle because we're at the end of the model year.
Can you check other counties? Because I know Fairfax has their own contract vehicle.
And so does York.
And they buy off of state contract with their own thing, and they may have somebody in Northern Virginia, we could get it right away.
We will certainly check with both them, and York County does a bid as well on vehicles that sometimes are better than state contract. But
We have is there a database that tells us all the other counties that have contracts? Because the state contract is not the best procurement method.
With eVirginia, it's helped out a lot. Right. When VDOT used to do it, it wasn't as good. But now that the eVirginia line that they actually do, it's a lot. I think it's a lot better and more valuable to us than it has been. When the state says they put the bid out, of course, it's for all of the state of Virginia as well as localities that can do that. So your larger localities are typically the ones that can afford to go out and they buy multiple vehicles. Right. When you buy 100 vehicles a year in Caroline County, I mean, we're buying 5 a year if we're lucky, and so it's just.
But Fairfax will let us buy off of that.
Yes, we bought a roll-off truck off of their contract.
Okay.
I guess, and my other concern is, what time are we going to do this? I mean, if I'm concerned about the unencumbered balance at this point, we've made several other purchases from the unencumbered balance, and I mean, if we keep doing that, we're going to eventually run into an issue. So
that's why I suggested we lease purchase them so that the hit would be a lot less. It works out about maybe $900 a month if you took a 50,000 total and a little bit of interest. So not guaranteeing that, but just so even $1,000 a month. But and much better than taking 50 right away.
Okay. Okay. So how does the board want to address this? Is there a motion?
We make a motion to allow staff to lease purchase the 2 vehicles for Public Works after they've made an exhaustive search of other contract vehicles to ensure the quick delivery.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We allow staff to do a lease purchase of the 2 vehicles after a search has been made into the state contract, see if we can.
And other contract vehicles.
In Fairfax. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, that takes us to proposed amendment, solid waste convenience site standard operating procedure manual. Okay, Mr. Sheba.
Mr. Chairman, I've got the next one as well. This is an item that we've had some issues over the past year or so with. In the last month, we've really had some more issues with it. And really, I think in the wording, the way that the manual currently states compared to what the intent was, currently it states that the requirement to have items contained within a container or bag. These items that we're talking about are specifically asphalt, bricks, blocks, rocks, cement, and soil. Currently, it says that it must be contained within a no bigger than a 55-gallon receptacle or bagged in a trash bag. If you're looking at brick, if somebody's got brick, they're not going to load up 55-gallon trash can and put it in their truck, and you can't pick it up. And they're not going to put it in their truck, and then we're expecting them to put the can in the truck put the bricks in the back of the truck, climb up and put them inside of the receptacle. That's not really what the intent was. The intent was is that we would not accept any more than a 55-gallon container of those type of items at one time. So we have proposed a change to hopefully make that clear. So it would say not to exceed an amount greater than a 55-gallon waste receptacle and lumber and plywood 4 feet or less in length for all the convenience sites. So we've reduced that to make it hopefully clear that the idea is to accept an amount not to exceed what could fit into a 55-gallon trash receptacle. And I think it would be a lot more conducive for the site attendants and definitely more readily easier on the residents.
Okay, board members have questions or concerns? If not,
I have a question before we let Mr. Shebel go on this procedural matter.
Mr. Thomas?
Okay. Mr. Shebel, when you're modifying the standard procedures, there's a tire issue. A constituent of Mr. Taylor's stopped me at the landfill site and said, I've got tires that are 39 inches. Why can't I dump these? The manual says 36 to 48 is free for residents, and apparently there's some issue there.
As long as it's not a tractor tire, which we have to pay a lot of money to dispose of, but anything up to 36 inches is considered free. We end up paying for anything over that. Anything over 36 inches is considered commercial, up to 48 inches. So if you bring something in of that size, then it would be a commercial rate because we get charged a lot more to dispose of those type of things. Most residents, 36 inches won't fit on a standard pickup truck or a car. I mean, typically they're commercial vehicles. So the idea of that regulation was to prevent commercial people from dumping and actually having to fall into the commercial side and pay for those size tires.
Okay, well, you've trained me well because that was the exact response I gave, is we had to pay for tires over 36 inches. But I think there must be some ambiguity in the manual, since this particular citizen said in one place it said this and another place it said that.
It does. It says we accept up to 36 inches for a day from a resident. Anything between over 36 up to 48 is commercial, and you pay $120 a ton, which is the same exact rate that we pay at the tipping fee, except I got to pay staff a truck to go down and dump them. So we're not even breaking even on our current cost to accept regular tires, and then it's even more for the bigger tires. They charge you individually for the bigger tires.
Okay, any other questions?
That'll come back to you, sir.
Did you have a comment, Mr.?
I was going to make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure.
Certainly.
Turn your mic on.
Sorry, where it says, the additional language says not to exceed an amount greater than a 55-gallon waste. Could we say not to exceed an amount greater in volume than a
Yes.
55-gallon waste?
So you like to have the word in volume?
In volume
inserted?
added after greater.
Okay. Okay. Motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the modification to the solid waste manual with the amendment proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved and properly second that we accept the proposed amendment to solid waste management convenience site operating manual with the addition of the words in volume. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Takes us to informational calendar items. Mr. Cully?
We had been working with VACO. They had encouraged us to put in to be nominated for VACO awards, and one of the things was that they had looked at was the program that we had done with McShin through the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And so Mr. Parton worked with Mr. Spencer and submitted this program to the National Association of Counties, and we won an award. So we're hopeful we're going to win the VACO award as well for the same program. We did submit we submitted one on the library program as well to VACO. We won't know that for a while yet, but we did receive notice the end of last week while I was on vacation, and this is the official news release from NACO that Caroline won this award for the McShin program. So that's something to be very proud of, seeing how the Board of Supervisors was the driving force to try to make something happen to lower the jail costs. We included capital projects update for you. We've already been over the school numbers. You can see where those are. The rest of ours are pretty much the same. You have your Fred ridership report, and I will get to the calendar. Mr. Underwood's meeting is 6:30 on the 11th, as he said earlier, is on our calendar. Mr. Black has a community meeting on the 23rd at Rehoboth United Methodist. That's at 7 o'clock. And then on the 25th, that's at Landor's, which side? Landor's side, also at 7 o'clock. And then don't forget, and we need to recess. We've advertised the meeting, but we need to go on and recess to our next meeting at 6 p.m. in this room on June 30th. And I think that's pretty much all we have for the most part.
Okay.
No meetings in July.
Okay. That takes us to closing board comments. Mr. Thomas?
Surprisingly, none.
Mr. Black?
I was going to mention my 2 constituent meetings, but Mr. Cully already covered it, so that's it.
Okay. Mr. Underwood?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
No, sir.
And Mr. Seeley?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
And I have none. We will entertain a
I
motion
make
to
a motion
recess.
to recess to the 30th of June at 6 o'clock in this facility.
Okay. There's a second. Moved and properly second that we would recess till the 6th of June, the 30th of June at 6 o'clock in this room. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed,